Madam Speaker, from recollection, I think at the last sitting you did say a little more than 20 minutes. I kind of vaguely recollected. My recollection is that you did say a little more than 20 minutes.
Your recollection was that I had more than 20 minutes, so what do you recall in terms of time?
19.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, I mean, I'll be guided by you, but in my own preparation for today, I actually had at the back of my mind that I had more than 20 minutes. There were numerous interruptions, and I'm sure it was more than 20 minutes. But I'll be guided by you and by the generosity of this House if I should need more time that such will be asked for. But
we will proceed, and you may be given additional time under the standing orders. Honourable Member, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we last sat in this Honourable House, the sitting ended in a very unfortunate manner. Despite our regret at what happened, we must admit collectively that it had to happen sooner or later. And Madam Speaker, I hope it never happens again. We simply cannot expect a human being to suffer the gross inconvenience that you have been asked to suffer.
Order. My mic is on. When my mic is on, yes. Honourable members, I would wish this House sitting to proceed without making any reference whatsoever to me and the unfortunate incident that happened in this House.
Madam Speaker, history is a recording of events which cannot be
The statement which I have just made is made to either side of this House. Honourable members, I have so spoken. I wish every member to so abide by that. Thank you. Honourable Member for Castries South, please proceed.
Madam Speaker, there is a callousness and insensitivity which pervades this government that it is frightening. Madam Speaker, it is slowly extending to becoming a vicious and vindictive tendency that says to every citizen in St. Lucia to be aware, be vigilant, and rise to fight oppression. Madam Speaker, when I spoke at a debate on the estimates on April 26, I indicated that I knew I was a marked man. I promised then that I would be firm and resolute. I said to this House that our youth, our citizens, want a different politics. They want a politics of hope, of aspiration, of decency, and of decorum. I said then to this House and to my constituents that I would ensure that the government is asked the tough questions, to hold them accountable, and to forever represent the people of Castries South with the highest standards of which I am capable. So, Madam Speaker, I know after the last sitting in this House that, Madam Speaker, they would be jolted into high gear to discredit me and seek to harm my reputation, and my character. They failed in the elections, and I know they would not be sleeping. So, Madam Speaker, there were many whispers of how they would hurt and destroy me. And I smiled, Madam Speaker. I will keep on smiling, for I fear no evil. I am comforted by my faith. Madam Speaker, I will not wilt in the face of accusations or parliamentary obstructionism. I will not be broken by threats, emails, phone hacks, or vindictiveness. So you can try over and over and over again. Search and search from London to St. Lucia and to see what bogus charges and investigations you can trump up. I promise you that every time I will be ready to rebuke you and come at you harder than before. Because there is nothing to find. There is nothing I have done wrong. But more importantly, I am blessed. I will never sit back and allow evil to prosper. This government is a wicked government. And Madam Speaker, more will be said in the weeks to come. I am waiting patiently, Madam Speaker, and I'm smiling. Because, Madam Speaker, I tell you, Madam Speaker, this airport development bill, Madam Speaker, is another example of how wicked this government is to the people of St. Lucia. The last time, Madam Speaker, I made reference to this government moving from a model where it had, the previous administration, the SLP administration, had engaged the World Bank, and sought advice on the best model to rebuild the airport in Beaufort. The World Bank advised to go to the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, an arm of the World Bank, because this government of the Labour Party could not accept that the government was seeking to borrow $400 million to rebuild the airport in Beaufort. But more importantly, the process had become tainted when a member of the then government indicated that he did not agree with the approach being used and that he had been offered a bribe. He claimed he reported it to his Prime Minister. And, Madam Speaker, that was said publicly on a talk show. And then he was informed that the Prime Minister had also been offered a bribe. And, Madam Speaker, when I said so, the member from Ancillary Canneries asked me to provide the evidence. And I cited documents in my possession that indicated that a member of this Honorable House was the subject of an investigation. And that's where we ended at the last sitting, Madam Speaker. The document is in the public purview. The document, Madam Speaker, shows that an honorable member is part, at least one of the subjects of an investigation into what transpired in the last government when he served. That is fact, Madam Speaker. I am not manufacturing it. I am not looking for trump-up charges and expressing any matter that's not in the public purview. The Prime Minister said then they had no evidence in the House, in government, that the government had ever made such a request. The Prime Minister said he would lead an investigation. More will be said on that very soon, Madam Speaker. But it really raises a question. Why, Madam Speaker, if you wanted to borrow $400 million, the World Bank would say, no, this is a different way of doing it. This is a way where St. Lucia will not incur not 1 cent, Madam Speaker, in loans. Why would you overturn that and want to go back to borrowing $400 million, Madam Speaker? And this is what this bill is about, Madam Speaker. We're going back to an approach that was tainted, and is tainted by the documents in circulation, that a member of this House is the subject of an investigation for a process that was tainted and corrupted, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, a point of order on Section 35. It says the subject of the provisions of Standing Order 10 of the House debate, any motion, bill, or amendment shall be relevant to such motion, bill, or amendment, and a member shall confine his observations to the subject under discussion. And Speaker, we're not here to discuss the airport project. We're coming here to discuss a bill in order to create a lockbox to put monies into the account. The member will have the other side, will have plenty of opportunity when we come with the agreement to the House to discuss the matters of the airport. We are here simply to discuss an approval of a method in order to put a tax into a lockbox. That is what we're here for, and I would seek your guidance, Madam Speaker, that the member from Castries South can confine his comments to that issue.
Honorable Prime Minister, you have raised a point of an objection under Standing Order 10. You said Section 35(1). Okay. Relevant bill or amendment, and the member shall confine his observation to the subject under discussion. And the subject under discussion is the bill for consideration is the Airport Development Bill. The purpose of the bill is to provide for airport development.
Shall I proceed, Madam Speaker?
My mic is still on. Yes. Now, whilst I see that the bill is called the Airport Development Bill, it appears to me that just about every clause speaks with respect to charges, payments, airport facility funds, just about every I am still on the floor. Just about every one of the clauses from clause 3 to 23 to 20 speaks in relation to money of an airport development. Yes, you've raised your point, sir, and I've ruled about it. And I will rule about it. Okay? So, Honourable Member for Castries South, please proceed with respect to confining your debate to the bill before us and the matters and the clauses within the bill.
Madam Speaker, I have no confidence in any attempt by this government to set up any lockbox or have any charge to build any new airport, because the last time they tried it, it was a tainted process. It was a tainted process the last time they tried it. The last time they tried it, Madam Speaker, the last time they tried to have something exactly like this with the same clauses, Madam Speaker, there was a statement by a colleague minister at the time saying that the process was tainted. The last time it was tried, Madam Speaker, those same clauses or similar clauses, it resulted in a U.S. investigation into a present member, Madam Speaker. So I have no confidence, Madam Speaker, in those clauses, Madam Speaker.
What does the investigation have to do with this debate? We're simply putting a lockbox, the same lockbox that was in place prior. And in fact, when they came and they amended it, they put the same lockbox, and instead of it going into SLASPA, the lockbox was going into a private company. So if the member can please confine his comments. The investigation and the process as to how the award of the contract is not what is being debated here today. What is being debated is the lockbox mechanism. And for him to make those allegations, Madam Speaker, are erroneous and are misguiding the House. They have nothing to do with that. The lockbox was established, $50 million was put into the lockbox, and in fact, Madam Speaker, it was the former government, the government on the other side, that spent the $50 million. So it has nothing to do with that. Yes, in order to be able to create the places. So, and the amendments of the airport. So, Madam Speaker, there is nothing in here that connects the tax to what the member is alleging. The tax is about a tax that goes into a lockbox in order to develop the airport. With regards to issuing contracts for contractors and bringing up some purported investigation that has not even been confirmed, some hearsay that is taking place, Madam
Honourable
Speaker,
Prime Minister,
is unfortunate.
you have
and I'm
made your
asking the member
point.
to withdraw.
Honourable Member for Castries South, can you please confine your debate to the bill? To the bill before us.
Madam Speaker, I am confining my debate to the bill. The purpose of the bill is to provide for airport development, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there's established tradition in parliaments, Madam Speaker, that in debate you provide context, you provide rationale, and you provide a basis for any argument that you're going to put forward, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, I'm amused. And you know why? It's because a spot is being touched. A sensitive spot is being touched, Madam Speaker. And the people of St. Lucia want to know, Madam Speaker. They want to know. And every time we stand to speak, and I'm growing accustomed to it, once I stand, all the signals start to stop him, stop him, stop him. Madam Speaker, I have no confidence in this initiative taken by this government. I have no confidence, Madam Speaker. None. Because of the historical experience, Madam Speaker, that's number one reason why I have no confidence in those clauses. Secondly, Madam Speaker, in the last time we met, I spoke of certain inconsistencies in the bill. I made reference to it, Madam Speaker. And I trust when the Prime Minister rebuts, he will respond to those inconsistencies I pointed out that's in the bill, especially since he's preoccupied with lockbox, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister says I should also only confine myself to the clauses and only speak about the clauses, Madam Speaker. Because I suspect the Prime Minister is afraid of me asking him to explain to the people of St. Lucia why it is he made calls as stated in that document that is circulating, Madam Speaker. Because you know I'm going to ask that question.
I'm going to stand on the rising order again, Madam Speaker. What does that have?
No need so to do, sir. Honourable Member for Castries South, you speak to, you can cite or make a reference to a document, but I will guide you and say to you that making no amount of shaking the document will make it a document of the House. It cannot be. You can cite it, you can make a reference to it, you may not read therefrom. No, you cannot read therefrom, and I circulated the notes on that. There are notes on it. Okay? So, now, whatever allegations or assertions you wish to make regarding another member of this House, please do not make them if it has no relevance to the bill being debated. Let us confine to the bill being debated. What you have in your hand, or purport to have in your hand, has no bearing, and if it is yet to be determined or whatever stage it is at, I'm really not interested in what stage it is at, but I do not think, with respect to that Airport Development Act bill that we are debating, it has relevance. It has direct relevance and bearing. Can we please proceed?
So, Madam Speaker, if I'm arguing that we move from a model where the previous UWP government wanted to borrow $400 million and use a particular approach, the Labour Party came into power, abandoned that approach, went to the World Bank, got the IFC involved that suggested another approach. This government comes back into power, wants to go back to the previous approach. And I am saying I do not have confidence in that previous approach because the World Bank, and you're saying to me, don't say that because it's not relevant. Is that the guidance you're providing to me, Madam Speaker, that I am not entitled to refer to the first experience in the previous United Workers' Party government? It is not relevant to airport development. I should not refer to it. I should not mention it. Is that what you're saying, Madam Speaker?
However, I am sure, let me make myself clear. What I am saying is, if you are given the genesis of this document and how it came back to the House, I have no objections to you doing that. The departure there seems to be centered around a particular document, which I'm saying, whilst you may make a reference to it or you may cite it, you cannot read it, part of it, and it is not on the floor for circulation in the House or for debate. So you can say the genesis of the document, it came back, it has gone to the House, it came back. You will even be permitted to say that it did not make it in the previous form. But I am saying to you, I am sure you can understand the language I'm speaking when I'm saying stay within the parameters and the confines.
Okay, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I must also say that to cite a document means to read from a document. I mean, I don't know that you can cite a case, you can cite a reference, and you don't think. But Madam Speaker, you said do not read from the document.
Okay, let me correct you on the point of citing.
Citing does not mean.
Citing of the document, as per Erskine me, I think members have page 446. Oh, let us go back to 445. It is previously circulated. A minister of the Crown may not read or quote from a dispatch or other state papers not before the House. Now, I say a minister because it says a minister, and there the greater is taken to include the lesser. Okay? Unless he is prepared to table it before and to lay it upon the table. And we have specific rules within Standing Order 13 of the House as to ministers having the responsibility of laying papers before the House. Please be so guided. Please continue.
Madam Speaker, I thought you were going to define what cited was. But anyway, Madam Speaker, I will move on. Madam Speaker, because I'm being asked to debate now with my hands tied behind my back and a kerchief tied around my eyes, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I want to know, Madam Speaker, where the advice on how to establish this lockbox came from. And I wanted to ask the question whether it came from many phone calls that were made, Madam Speaker, by various persons during the last experience of trying to get a loan and build an airport in the same fashion that it has been done now. Because there are records, Madam Speaker, in documents which showed hundreds of phone calls being made between a particular minister and the Prime Minister, who was then Minister of Tourism, who had nothing to do with the airport development. And it begs the question, why were calls being made? And I suspect, Madam Speaker, those calls were probably to get advice on how to set up a proper lockbox, Madam Speaker. It had to be, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to stay on this airport development bill, Madam Speaker, because earlier today, the Prime Minister spoke that he wanted answers on Grindberg, Madam Speaker. He wanted answers on something that was 16 years old. He wanted answers, and he wanted to know certain matters clarified. And I would like, Madam Speaker, and this is relevant to this bill, for the Prime Minister to tell us, why did the IFC fine St. Lucia almost $1 million, Madam Speaker? Why did they fine St. Lucia? That's important, Madam Speaker. The same way you want answers to something 16 years ago. And, Madam Speaker, from information that was given to me, Madam Speaker, when the IFC was told that the government of St. Lucia, and I want the Prime Minister, when he rebuts, to say whether it is true or not, and then we'll discuss the evidence based on his response. When the IFC was informed that St. Lucia was not following this model, the Prime Minister was advised to be very careful, because the previous experience had question marks over it. And St. Lucia must avoid giving the impression to the World Bank and the IFC that we were going back into a process which was tainted, which is why I keep repeating it. The Prime Minister authorized discussions with the IFC because he was encouraged, do not abandon the format that was negotiated by the Labour Party before. In totality, the Prime Minister was told that, and he was prepared, and the IFC was also prepared. If the government wanted, it would borrow the $400 million lockbox, as provided for in those clauses, but the IFC would manage the process of international tendering, awarding of contracts, and monitoring of the process. The IFC, inconsistent with its practices, was prepared to oversee the process in St. Lucia to ensure that there was no suspicion or any reason to believe that there was going to be anything untold. And the IFC agreed, Madam Speaker. And then the Prime Minister, when asked to send a letter to the IFC, refused to do so. And he said he did not want the IFC in anything to do with supervision of the tendering, selection, or managing of the process. And I want the Prime Minister to say if that's not true, because these are the whispers, Madam Speaker, in international circles. And on having made a decision that he did not want the IFC involved at all, then the World Bank decided that they were going to fine St. Lucia, and that fine had to be paid. Can the Prime Minister tell us, in this bill, consistent with it, how much did we have to pay the IFC, and why did the IFC end up fining St. Lucia, Madam Speaker? Because it's important, Madam Speaker. It's important because you're asking the people of St. Lucia to take a loan of $400 million, Madam Speaker. $400 million, Madam Speaker. Why would you abandon a model, a project, approved by the IFC, by the World Bank, that allows for St. Lucia not to borrow 1 cent, not to have to spend 1 cent on maintenance of any airport, and get an annual lease payment to go back to a model where you would spend $400 million, Madam Speaker? It raises questions, and the people of St. Lucia want questions. So before you go back 16 years answer those questions for the people of St. Lucia. What is the driving motivation? What is the economic sense? What's the business sense, Madam Speaker? Why would you ask this country to take a load, to, Madam Speaker, to have the responsibility of $400 million, Madam Speaker? Deep down inside, Madam Speaker, any rational person would ask a question. Why? Why is the government doing this? And Madam Speaker, the question nobody wants me to talk about, against the background of those documents, it really pricks at you, Madam Speaker, to find out what is going on, Madam Speaker. It really begs the question, Madam Speaker. And I am saying, Madam Speaker, that St. Lucians need answers. We need to be told clearly, Madam Speaker, what is involved with this, Madam Speaker. And unless those things are cleared up, Madam Speaker, there will always be questions and doubts about every single project that this government undertakes, Madam Speaker. There will always be doubts, Madam Speaker. And when one speaks about the clauses, Madam Speaker, when they speak about the clauses in there, unless that cloud that's over our head blows away, Madam Speaker, there'll be no confidence in this project. There'll be no confidence. St. Lucians will be disturbed by the fact that they have to borrow $400 million. They'll be disturbed by the fact that the previous time this model was followed, what it ended up in, Madam Speaker. And this is just the beginning, Madam Speaker. For those who don't want me to talk about it, I won't talk about it. It will be talked about by people at a much higher level than me, Madam Speaker. I'm not the one to talk about that. I only refer to the documents I saw. This is way above my head, Madam Speaker. St. Lucians will have no confidence in this bill, Madam Speaker. This bill, Madam Speaker, runs suspect, Madam Speaker, because of past experiences, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, let me repeat a point I made, Madam Speaker, that I want answered, Madam Speaker. If we look at Clause 11, Madam Speaker, a collector shall pay the development charge into and place the development charge to the credit of an account at a bank approved by the authority with the consent of the minister. We need to be assured that that account at that bank will be a local bank and not a foreign bank, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it goes on. Subject to this section, the development charge is for the purpose of making payments for the debt service requirement of a debt service arrangement to implement airport facility improvement projects. So it says the charge is for the purpose of making payments for the debt service requirement of a debt arrangement. Okay? That's what it is for. The authority may enter into a debt arrangement for the purpose of carrying out airport development projects on terms mutually agreed between the authority and the lender. Third, 12.3. Where a debt arrangement is entered, and listen to it, where a debt arrangement is entered to under subsection 2, the authority shall set up a lockbox account into which monies collected from the development charge are transferred. Where a debt arrangement is entered into, then the authority shall set up a lockbox account. So you have to have a debt service arrangement, and then you set up a lockbox account. And the bill, Madam Speaker, gives a date as of when January 1st we were informed that the charge will be imposed. Now the bill says only when you have entered into a debt service arrangement you can set up the lockbox account. And we are starting to collect that money from January 1st. I ask the question, have we entered into a debt service arrangement already? Because if we are starting to collect this money from the 1st of January, Madam Speaker, I assume, Madam Speaker, that according to this bill, which we will pass today, we have already entered into a debt service agreement. And if I'm wrong, Madam Speaker, I wish to be corrected, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also made the point that under the exemptions under this bill, nowhere do you see youth groups, sports groups, or people representing St. Lucia. Nowhere. But we see, Madam Speaker, under Schedule 2E, a person signified by a minister to be guest of the government. So a government minister can say, John Blow is a guest of this government, he doesn't pay the tax. But a young a youth group representing St. Lucia must pay it. A sports group from St. Lucia must pay it. And I said, Madam Speaker, this is wrong. There are people representing St. Lucia. They should not pay it. Because if a guest of the government of St. Lucia is exempted, our national representatives in culture, in sports, must not be asked to pay that charge, Madam Speaker. And I maintain that, Madam Speaker. It's wrong. Madam Speaker, I wanted to say something, Madam Speaker, about the purpose of the airport, Madam Speaker. It's about bringing and facilitating the tourists that will come to St. Lucia. That's what it is about. Ensuring that when we welcome people, the first experience of St. Lucia, Madam Speaker, is one that they will remember. So we're not against upgrading the airport. In fact, the Labour Party sought a better arrangement than the previous arrangement that the United Workers' Party government had, which is why we went to the World Bank and the IFC. And Madam Speaker, whilst talking about tourism, the member for Ancillary Economy spoke to justify figures that were presented, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, sometimes you really wonder, Madam Speaker. I'm not going to contest and say figures were bogus. I said, Madam Speaker, and I will repeat it, that those figures have something fundamentally wrong about them. When those figures says in Strozel, Saltibus, 1,000 jobs were created in the accommodation sector. In Ladbury, 3,000 jobs were created. In Ancillary Canaries, over 1,000, almost 2,000 jobs were created. The figures say so. And all of us know in here that 1,000 jobs were not created in Strozel in the accommodation sector. 1,000 jobs in Ladbury in accommodation. Ancillary Canaries, 2,000 jobs. We all know that's not true. And I'm not saying anybody doctored figures. I'm saying something is wrong with the figures. Whether it's a methodology, whether it's a collection of data, something is patently wrong. But we need the airport, Madam Speaker, because we want those figures to become a reality, Madam Speaker. We want it to become a reality. But we want, Madam Speaker, the clauses of those bills to get out of the shadow of suspicion that hangs over it. That is the fundamental issue, Madam Speaker. And why is there suspicion, Madam Speaker? One is the documents that are in circulation, Madam Speaker. Two, the amount of calls that were made by the Prime Minister and another member, Madam Speaker, in the course of the last experience. And thirdly, Madam Speaker, the sheer irrationality of giving up a World Bank approved approach that will cost St. Lucia no money for us to go and borrow $400 million, Madam Speaker. That one is deafening, Madam Speaker. And I'll tell you something, as I go through my constituency, people ask that question, Madam Speaker. Puchinuka Fesa, they ask the question. So when we heard there was 100,000 new cruise ship passengers, they're also asking the question, where them? Because Gloria in Marigot not feeling any better, the beach boys down in Marigot on the beach not feeling any better, they're not seeing it, they're not benefiting from it. Maybe it is there. But something must be wrong with our model because they're not enjoying that benefit. Maybe some people are enjoying the benefit, Madam Speaker. But we want an airport that will be of benefit to St. Lucia. We want clauses, Madam Speaker, that can give us confidence that this process is beyond reproach, Madam Speaker. And we have no confidence that those clauses that the Prime Minister spoke about, Madam Speaker, gives any St. Lucian any confidence, Madam Speaker, that something is not wrong with this approach and something is wrong with this government, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Minister for Infrastructure, Port, Energy and Labour.
Madam Speaker, I shall attempt to deliver my statement and contribution to this debate within the confines and frame of the bill which has been presented.